All right. Hold on tight because this one is gonna hit different. You think you know everything about Stray Kids? You know their music, their choreography, their chaotic lives, their legendary Kingdom performances. But do you really know what kind of woman their own mothers want them to marry? Yeah, you heard that right. Not what the members said in some fan sign event while trying to be cute. We're talking about what their moms actually revealed. The women who raised Bang Chan, Lee No, Changbin, Hyunjin, Han, Felix, Seungmin, and they have very specific criteria, and some of them, honestly shocking. Which mother said she wants a daughter-in-law who can handle her son's absolute chaos in the kitchen? Which mom basically described a woman who's the complete opposite of what fans expected? And here's the real question. Which Stray Kids member's mother set the bar so high that fans started saying, "Ma'am, that's a K-drama character, not a real person"? We're counting down from number 8 to number 1. And trust me, the closer we get to that top spot, the more unbelievable it gets. So, are you ready? Let's get into it.
Number 8. I.N. The Magne's mom sets the foundation, and it's sweeter than you think. You know what's funny about being the youngest in a group of 8 incredibly talented, incredibly chaotic men? Everyone babies you. The Hyungs baby you, the fans baby you, the staff babies you, but there's one person who sees right through all of that adorable Magne image, and that's young Jeonjin's mother. Now before we even get into what she said, you need to understand something about I.N's family background, because it changes everything about how you interpret her criteria. Jeonjin grew up in Busan, a port city known for producing some of the most strong-willed, straightforward, and emotionally grounded people in all of South Korea. Busan families are known for their warmth, but also their directness. They don't sugarcoat things, they don't play around with fake politeness, and they value genuine human connection over surface-level charm. His mother is exactly that type of person, and if you've ever watched any of the behind-the-scenes content where Jeonjin talks about his family, you can feel it. The way he describes his mom is always with this mix of deep respect and slight fear, which, let's be honest, is the most Korean son thing ever. He once mentioned during a fan call that his mom is the type of person who will feed you until you literally cannot move, but will also tell you straight to your face if your outfit looks terrible. That's the woman we're dealing with here, and her criteria for Jeonjin's future wife? It's not what you'd expect from a mother who raised an idol Magne. So here's the thing, when the topic of Jeonjin's future partner came up, his mother reportedly expressed something that fans initially found surprisingly simple, but when you really think about it, is actually profound. She emphasized that she wants someone who is genuinely kind, not performatively kind, not kind because cameras are rolling, not kind because they want something, but someone whose natural default state is kindness. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, duh, every mom wants someone kind, but hold on, because the way she elaborated on this reveals so much more. She specifically talked about how Jeonjin, despite his bright and cheerful exterior, is actually someone who internalizes a lot of emotions. He's the type of person who will smile through difficult situations, who will laugh off stress, who will pretend everything is fine even when it absolutely is not. His mother knows this about him. She raised him. She's seen the version of Jeonjin that the cameras never capture, and because of that, she wants a partner who can see through that smile. Someone who has enough emotional intelligence and genuine warmth to notice when Jeonjin is putting on a brave face and gently, without making it a big deal, create a safe space for him to actually express what he's feeling. That's not just be kind, that's be emotionally perceptive in a way that most people never learn to be. But it doesn't stop there. Jeonjin's mother also brought up something that directly connects to how she raised him and the values of their Busan household. She wants someone who values family. And again, on the surface, that sounds generic, but in the Korean cultural context, especially in a traditional Busan family, valuing family carries very specific weight. It means someone who understands the importance of family gatherings, who doesn't see visiting in-laws as a chore but as a genuine joy. Someone who will sit at the dinner table during Chuseok and Seollal and actually engage with the family rather than just endure it. Remember, Hyunjin has an older brother, and his family dynamic is close-knit in a very traditional sense. They eat together, they celebrate together, they support each other through everything. His mother wants a daughter-in-law who fits into that dynamic naturally, not someone who tolerates it. There's a massive difference between a partner who says, "Sure, I'll go to your family dinner," and a partner who says, "What should I bring to your family dinner?" And Hyunjin's mom is absolutely looking for the latter. Now here's where it gets really interesting and honestly kind of emotional. There's been talk among fans who follow I.N's personal lives closely that his mother also expressed concern about Hyunjin's tendency to put others before himself. This is a well-documented trait. If you've been a stay for any amount of time, you've seen it. Hyunjin is the member who will quietly give up his seat, who will offer his food without being asked, who will stay behind to help clean up, who will laugh at a joke that isn't funny just to make the person telling it feel good. It's beautiful, but it's also exhausting, and his mother knows that. So part of her ideal daughter-in-law criteria is someone who will reciprocate that energy. Not someone who just receives Hyunjin's kindness and takes it for granted, but someone who actively gives it back, someone who will surprise him with his favorite food, who will notice when he's tired and insist he rest, who will fight for his comfort the way he fights for everyone else's. In her mind, Hyunjin has spent his entire idol career being the one who adjusts, accommodates, and adapts for others, and his life partner should be the one person in the world where he doesn't have to do that. And there's one more layer to this that fans absolutely lost their minds over when it came to light. Hyunjin's mother apparently also mentioned that she hopes his future wife has a good sense of humor, but not in the tell-me-a-joke way. She means someone who can laugh at life, who doesn't take everything too seriously, who can turn a stressful moment into a funny memory. And if you know anything about Hyunjin's own personality, this makes perfect sense. Despite being the youngest, I.N has one of the most naturally witty and playful senses of humor in all of Stray Kids. His comedic timing is underrated, his savage remarks catch even the Hyungs off guard, and his ability to lighten the mood in any situation is genuinely a gift. His mother wants someone who matches that energy, someone who can go back and forth with him, who can make him laugh the way he makes everyone else laugh, who can be his partner in creating a home that's full of laughter and lightness even when life gets heavy. Because at the end of the day, what Hyunjin's mother is really describing isn't just a wife, she's describing a best friend. Someone who is kind without being asked, who loves family without being forced, who gives as much as she receives, and who can fill their home with the kind of laughter that makes you forget the world outside exists. And honestly, for the magne of one of the biggest fourth-generation K-pop groups in history, that's not just sweet, that's wisdom. His mother isn't looking for someone impressive on paper. She's looking for someone who will make her son's life genuinely, deeply, quietly happy. And if that doesn't hit you right in the chest, I don't know what will. So that's number 8. I.N's mother keeping it real, keeping it warm, and setting a foundation that honestly every parent should aspire to. But don't get too comfortable, because number 7? Oh, number 7 is where things start to get really specific, and the member's mom we're about to talk about, she basically dropped a checklist that had fans screaming, "Ma'am, are you recruiting for a position?" Stay locked in. Number 7. Seungmin. His mother's standards are quietly brutal, and fans didn't see it coming. Okay, now we're getting into territory that genuinely surprised people, because when you think of Kim Seungmin, you think of the guy with the pristine vocals, the baseball obsession, the clean-cut image. The member who looks like he walked straight out of a university campus drama, where he plays the top student who secretly has a heart of gold. Seungmin is, by all accounts, the put-together member of Stray Kids, and because of that, most fans assumed his mother's criteria would be equally neat and predictable. Something like a nice girl with a good education, or someone polite and well-mannered. And sure, those elements are in there, but the way his mother framed her ideal daughter-in-law criteria? It's quietly one of the most demanding lists on this entire countdown, and the reason it hits so hard is because it reveals just how deeply his mother understands the complex, layered, and sometimes contradictory personality that is Kim Seungmin. So buckle up, because this one goes deep. First, let's set the stage with some background that most casual fans don't know. Seungmin comes from a family that places enormous value on education, discipline, and self-improvement. This isn't just hearsay, you can see it in literally everything Seungmin does. The way he practices his vocals with almost obsessive precision, the way he studies Japanese and English methodically, the way he approaches every challenge with a structured, almost academic mindset, that's not just personality, that's upbringing. His parents raised him to believe that effort is the most important currency in life, and that consistent, quiet hard work will always beat flashy talent that isn't backed by discipline. His mother, from what has been shared across various fan interactions, interviews, and the way Seungmin describes her, is a woman of incredibly high standards, but not in an aggressive way. She's the type of mother who doesn't yell at you for getting a B, but who sits you down and calmly asks, "Do you think that was really your best?" And that kind of quiet expectation? That shapes a person in ways that loud criticism never could. Seungmin is his mother's son, and understanding that is the key to understanding why her criteria for his future wife is what it is. So what did she say? Here's where it gets fascinating. Seungmin's mother reportedly emphasized that she wants someone who is intellectually compatible with her son. And no, she doesn't mean someone with a specific degree or a certain GPA. She means someone who can actually engage with Seungmin on a mental level. Someone who reads, who has opinions, who can debate an idea without getting emotional, who can sit across from him at dinner and have a conversation that actually goes somewhere. And if you've watched Seungmin in any unscripted setting V-Lives, behind-the-scenes content, even the way he interacts during variety shows, you know exactly why his mother values this. Seungmin is sharp. His mind works fast, his observations are precise, his sense of humor is rooted in intelligence rather than slapstick, and he gets genuinely excited when he encounters someone who can keep up with him intellectually. He's the member who will randomly drop a surprisingly insightful observation about human nature in the middle of a chaotic group conversation, and while the other members are goofing around, Seungmin is sitting there with this satisfied little smile because he knows what he just said was clever. His mother sees that, she's always seen that, and she wants a partner for him who doesn't just nod along, but who actually challenges him. Someone who makes him think, who introduces him to new perspectives, who pushes his mind the way his vocal coaches push his voice. But here's where it gets unexpectedly emotional, and this is the part that had fans genuinely tearing up when it came to light. Despite all of Seungmin's outward confidence, his discipline, his seemingly unshakable composure, his mother knows something that most people miss. Seungmin is incredibly hard on himself. Like, to a degree that goes way beyond healthy perfectionism. He's the type of person who will deliver a flawless performance and then go home and replay the one moment where his pitch was slightly off, and it will eat at him for days. He holds himself to standards that are almost impossible to consistently meet, and when he falls short, even by a millimeter, he doesn't forgive himself easily. His mother has watched this pattern his entire life, from school exams to JYP auditions to Stray Kids comebacks, and it worries her. So one of her key criteria, and this is the one that really gets you, is that she wants someone who can teach Seungmin to be gentle with himself. Someone who, when Seungmin is spiraling into self-criticism at 2 a.m. because he thinks his recording wasn't good enough, can hold his hand and say, "You did amazing, and I need you to hear that." Someone who can be the voice of reassurance that Seungmin refuses to give himself. Not someone who dismisses his standards because his mother respects that drive, but someone who can help him find the balance between striving for excellence and destroying himself in the process. And then there's the criteria that made fans go absolutely feral on social media. Seungmin's mother apparently expressed that she wants someone who genuinely loves animals, specifically dogs. And you might laugh at that, but if you know anything about Seungmin, you know this is dead serious. This man loves dogs with an intensity that borders on spiritual. His family dog is basically his emotional anchor, and the way he talks about dogs, the gentleness in his voice, the way his entire face softens, the way he literally drops everything to interact with any dog he encounters. It tells you something fundamental about who he is. His mother knows that any woman who walks into Seungmin's life is also walking into a life that will involve dogs, probably multiple dogs, and she needs to be someone who doesn't just tolerate that but who shares that love. Because for Seungmin, how you treat animals reveals who you really are as a person. If you're kind to a dog that can give you nothing in return, you're genuinely kind. If you're patient with a puppy that won't stop barking at 3 a.m., you have real patience. His mother is essentially using the dog criteria as a character test, and honestly, that's genius. Now, there's another layer that connects all of these criteria together, and it's something that speaks to Seungmin's specific position within Stray Kids and the unique pressures he faces. Seungmin is often described as the reliable member, the one who shows up prepared, the one who doesn't cause drama, the one who quietly does his job at the highest possible level without needing praise or attention. And while that's an incredible quality, it also means that Seungmin often gets overlooked. Not by the members, who clearly adore and respect him, but in the broader conversation. He's not the loudest, not the most dramatic, not the one who trends for chaotic behavior. He's the steady hand, the anchor, the consistency. His mother is acutely aware of this dynamic, and she wants a wife who sees him. Not someone who's dazzled by the idol version of Seungmin, but someone who notices the small things, the way he quietly takes care of others without announcing it, the way he remembers details about people because he genuinely listens, the way he shows love through actions rather than grand gestures. She wants someone who appreciates the quiet greatness in her son because the world is full of people who celebrate the loud, and Seungmin deserves someone who understands that the most powerful things in life often happen without a single sound. And the final piece of this puzzle, and this is what ties it all together beautifully, his mother wants someone with a sense of stability. Not financial stability, not career stability, emotional stability. Someone who is consistent in their feelings, who doesn't run hot and cold, who doesn't create unnecessary drama, who can be a calm presence in a life that is inherently chaotic. Because let's not forget, Seungmin is an idol in one of the most demanding groups in K-pop. His life is schedules, airports, stages, cameras, expectations, and constant public scrutiny. His mother wants his home to be the opposite of all that. She wants him to walk through his front door and feel peace. She wants the woman waiting for him to be the kind of person who makes the noise of the world go quiet. And that right there is not just a mother's wish. That's a mother's prayer for her son. She's not looking for someone extraordinary. She's looking for someone who makes ordinary moments feel extraordinary. Someone who makes Seungmin's morning coffee feel like a ceremony, who makes a quiet Sunday afternoon feel like the greatest gift in the world. And if you understand Seungmin, really, truly understand him beyond the idol image, you know that's exactly the kind of love he deserves. So that's number 7, Seungmin's mom, coming in quiet, but absolutely lethal with standards that are less about what a woman has and more about who a woman is. But listen, if you think that was specific, number 6 is about to blow the roof off, because the next mother on our list, she brought up a criteria that literally no one expected, and it connects to a side of her son that he's been hiding in plain sight this entire time. You are not ready. Number 6. Changbin. His mom dropped a criteria nobody expected, and it exposed his hidden side. Alright, let's talk about Seo Changbin, and I need you to really pay attention here, because this one is going to completely flip the script on everything you think you know about this man. When most people hear the name Changbin, what comes to mind? Power. Raw, unfiltered, earth-shaking power. He's the rapper whose voice sounds like thunder wrapped in velvet, the guy who goes so hard on stage that you genuinely worry the microphone might disintegrate in his hand. The member who can shift from a verse that makes your chest vibrate to a look that could end your entire existence. Spearby, that's his producing alter ego, is responsible for some of the hardest hitting bars in 4th generation K-pop history, and his stage presence is the kind that makes you hold your breath without realizing it. He's compact, he's explosive, he's intense, and for years, fans have built this image of Changbin as this indestructible force of nature who eats beats for breakfast and bench presses his emotions away. So when his mother's ideal daughter-in-law criteria came to light, people expected something equally intense, maybe a strong, independent, fierce woman who could match his energy, right? Wrong. So incredibly, beautifully, heartbreakingly wrong. Because Changbin's mother went in a direction that exposed a side of her son that he shows in glimpses, but that she has witnessed in full for 26 years, and it's the side that makes this entry one of the most emotionally devastating on our entire list. Let's start with the foundation, because you cannot understand what his mother wants for him unless you understand where Changbin comes from. Seo Changbin grew up in Yongin, Gyeonggi Province, in what by all accounts was a warm, tight-knit family. He has an older sister, and this detail is crucial to understanding his personality and his mother's criteria. Growing up with an older sister in a Korean household shapes a boy in very specific ways. He learns to communicate differently. He develops emotional awareness earlier than most boys his age. He understands the nuances of female perspectives in a way that guys who grew up only around brothers often don't. Changbin's relationship with his sister has been mentioned multiple times across Stray Kids content, and it's clear that she played a significant role in developing his emotional intelligence. His mother watched this dynamic unfold, watched her son become the kind of boy who could sit and listen, really listen, to a woman speak without interrupting, without dismissing, without trying to fix everything. And that upbringing? It's the lens through which every single one of her criteria needs to be understood. So here it is, the criteria that broke the internet, the one nobody saw coming. Changbin's mother reportedly said she wants someone who is soft. Yes, soft. For the man whose rap delivery could crack concrete, whose workout videos make people question whether he's human, whose intensity on stage is almost frightening, his mother wants a wife who is gentle, tender, and emotionally warm. And the reason? This is where you need to sit down if you're not already sitting, because this is about to hit like a freight train. Changbin's mother knows, the way only a mother can know, that her son carries an enormous amount of emotional weight that he almost never shows publicly. Behind that powerful exterior, behind those fierce performances, behind the muscles and the deep voice and the hard-hitting lyrics, Changbin is one of the most emotionally sensitive members of Stray Kids. And this isn't speculation. This is something that has been documented across years of content. He's the member who cries during emotional moments and then immediately tries to laugh it off. He's the one who writes lyrics about loneliness, about feeling like he's not enough, about the pressure of having to be strong all the time. He once broke down during a V-Live talking about how grateful he is for stays, and the rawness of that moment, the way his voice cracked, the way he tried so hard to hold it together, it revealed something that his mother has always known. Changbin is not the fortress he pretends to be. He is a deeply emotional, deeply feeling human being who has spent most of his life performing strength because he believes that's what people need from him. And that is why his mother wants someone soft. Not soft as in weak, soft as in safe. She wants a woman who makes Changbin feel like he doesn't have to perform strength at home. Someone whose presence is so gentle, so warm, so accepting that Changbin can walk through the door after a 16-hour schedule, after pouring every ounce of energy into being Spear B, into being the power rapper, into being the guy who never breaks. And he can just exhale. He can sit on the couch and put his head on her shoulder and not say a single word, and she won't ask what's wrong, she won't push, she won't pry, she'll just be there. His mother wants a woman whose love feels like a blanket, not a spotlight. Someone who doesn't need Changbin to be impressive, who doesn't need him to be powerful, who doesn't need him to be on, someone who loves the version of Changbin that exists when all the armor comes off. And if you're a stay who has watched Changbin carefully over the years, you know that this is the version of him that is the most beautiful and the most vulnerable, the one who giggles at silly things, who makes dad jokes that are so bad they loop back around to being hilarious, who talks to plushies, who gets excited about food like a little kid, who blushes when someone genuinely compliments him. His mother wants a wife who brings that version of Changbin out, not occasionally, not as a treat, but as his default state at home. But wait, there's more, because Changbin's mother didn't stop at softness. She also talked about something that connects directly to Changbin's most underrated quality, his love of cooking. And this is where fans started losing their minds, because it reveals a domestic side of Changbin that is genuinely swoon-worthy. If you've watched any Stray Kids cooking content, You know that Changbin doesn't just cook, he loves cooking. He approaches it with the same intensity and creativity he brings to music production. He experiments, he tastes, he adjusts, he takes pride in feeding people. And his mother? She basically said she wants a daughter-in-law who will appreciate that. Not someone who cooks better than him and takes over the kitchen, someone who sits at the table, takes a bite of whatever Changbin made, and tells him it's delicious with genuine, sparkling sincerity. Because here's the thing about Changbin that his mother understands on a molecular level. His love language is acts of service, and cooking is one of the primary ways he expresses love. When Changbin cooks for you, he's not just feeding you, he's saying, I thought about you, I spent time for you, I wanted to make you happy. And his mother wants a wife who receives that love fully, who doesn't brush it off, who doesn't take it for granted, who recognizes that every meal Changbin prepares is a love letter written in soy sauce and sesame oil. And this is the criteria that genuinely made fans emotional on a deep level, Changbin's mother said she wants someone who will be his peace. Not his excitement, not his adventure, not his passion, his peace. And the weight of that word in the context of Changbin's life is almost too heavy to describe. Think about what Changbin's daily existence looks like. He writes music that requires him to dig into the rawest, most intense parts of his psyche. He performs with an energy level that would hospitalize most normal people. He lives in the public eye, where every word, every expression, every interaction is analyzed, screenshot, and debated by millions of people. His life is loud in every possible way, loud schedules, loud stages, loud emotions, loud expectations. And in the middle of all that noise, his mother wants one person, who represents silence. Not literal silence, but the emotional equivalent. A woman whose presence makes the noise stop. A woman who Changbin can look at across a room full of chaos and feel his heartbeat slow down. A woman who doesn't ADD to the intensity of his life, but who balances it. Someone who is the calm water to his raging fire, not because she diminishes his flame, but because she keeps him from burning himself. This is what's so devastatingly beautiful about Changbin's mother's criteria. She's not describing a fantasy. She's describing a need. She's watched her son pour himself into this career with an intensity that amazes and terrifies her simultaneously, and she knows that without the right partner, that intensity will eventually consume him. She wants a shield for her son's heart, and she wants that shield to be made not of steel, but of softness. Not armor that hardens him further, but love that finally allows him to be as gentle on the outside as he has always been on the inside. She wants someone who makes Seo Changbin, the rapper, the producer, the performer, the force of nature, feel like it's okay to just be Seo Changbin. The boy from Hyunjin who cries at movies and talks to stuffed animals and puts too much garlic in his ramyeon because he thinks it tastes better that way. Number 6, and we're already this deep? Listen, if Changbin's entry had you in your feelings, you better brace yourself for number 5, because the next member's mother? She introduced a criteria that is so unexpected, so specific, and so connected to a story from his childhood that it literally unlocks a part of his personality that fans have been trying to figure out for years. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. Number 5. Felix. His mother's criteria unlocks a story that changes everything you thought you knew. Felix. Lee Yonbak. The boy with the face of an angel and the voice of the abyss. The human contradiction who looks like he was hand-painted by a Renaissance artist, but sounds like he's narrating the end of the world every time he opens his mouth. The freckled sunshine of stray kids who can go from baking a perfect batch of brownies to delivering a rap verse that rattles your ribcage in the span of 30 seconds. Felix is, without exaggeration, one of the most uniquely captivating idols in the entire history of K-pop, and his story? His real story, the one that exists beneath the sparkly eyes and the infectious laugh? It's one of the most emotionally intense journeys in the industry. And when his mother's criteria for his ideal wife surfaced, it didn't just reveal what she wants for her son, it ripped open a chapter of Felix's life that most fans know the surface of, but have never truly understood the depth of. So before I tell you what she said, I need to take you back. Way back. Back to Sydney, Australia, where this entire story begins, because without understanding where Felix came from, you will never fully grasp why his mother's words carry the weight that they do. Lee Felix was born and raised in Sydney, in a Korean-Australian household with his parents and two sisters, an older sister, Rachel, and a younger sister, Olivia. Now, growing up Korean in Australia is its own unique experience. You exist between two cultures, two languages, two sets of expectations, two versions of yourself, the one your family sees at home and the one the world sees outside. Felix has talked about this duality multiple times, and if you listen carefully, you can hear the complexity in how he describes his childhood. He loved Australia, the openness, the freedom, the multiculturalism, but he also felt deeply connected to his Korean heritage, to the traditions his parents maintained, to the language they spoke at home, to the food his mother cooked. He was, in the truest sense, a child of two worlds, and that dual identity shaped him in ways that are still unfolding to this day. His mother, and this is critical, raised him with an emphasis on both cultures. She didn't want him to be fully Australian at the expense of his Korean roots, and she didn't want him to be so Korean that he couldn't navigate the Western world he was born into. She walked that tightrope every single day, and Felix is the living proof that she walked it brilliantly. But then came the decision that changed everything. Felix auditioned for JYP Entertainment. He passed. And at an age when most kids are worried about school dances and weekend plans, Felix made the decision to leave his family, leave his sisters, leave his friends, leave his country, and move to South Korea, alone, to chase a dream that had no guarantee of success. And here's what people don't talk about enough. His mother let him go. Imagine that. Imagine being a mother and watching your teenage son board a plane to a country where he barely speaks the language, where he knows almost nobody, where the training system is notoriously brutal, where the odds of debuting are astronomically low. And you have to smile and tell him you believe in him while your heart is shattering into 1,000 pieces inside your chest. That's what Felix's mother did. She let her baby boy go because she believed in his dream more than she feared for his safety, and that act of sacrificial love? That is the foundation upon which all of her criteria for his future wife is built. So what did she say? Here's where every single piece of Felix's story comes together in a way that will leave you breathless. Felix's mother reportedly expressed that above everything else, above looks, above career, above social status, above anything, she wants someone who will never let Felix feel alone. And the gravity of that word alone in the context of Felix's life is almost unbearable. Because Felix knows loneliness. He knows it intimately, personally, devastatingly. When he first arrived in Korea, he could barely communicate. His Korean was limited, his cultural understanding was surface level, and he was surrounded by trainees who had grown up in the system and spoke the language fluently. He's talked about those early days with a smile on his face, but if you watch his eyes when he tells those stories, there's a shadow there, a flicker of something painful that his sunshine personality can't fully hide. He was a kid, alone in a foreign country, struggling to understand what people were saying around him, eating meals by himself because he couldn't keep up with conversations, practicing until his body gave out because he felt like he had to work 10 times harder than everyone else just to compensate for the language barrier. And then came the moment that nearly destroyed him, his elimination from the Stray Kids survival show. If you've never watched that episode, I need you to understand what happened. Felix was told he wasn't good enough. On national television. After leaving everything behind. After his mother let him go with tears she tried to hide. After months of training, of loneliness, of fighting to belong, he was told to leave. And the footage of that moment, Felix's face crumbling, the other members crying, Bang Chan absolutely falling apart because he couldn't protect the kid he'd taken under his wing. It remains one of the most gut-wrenching moments in K-pop survival show history. Felix was alone in the most profound, crushing way a person can be alone. Alone in a country that wasn't his, rejected from the group that was supposed to be his family, with his mother thousands of miles away unable to hold him. And even though he was eventually brought back, even though the story has a happy ending that wound never fully closed. His mother knows that. She felt every second of that pain from across an ocean, and it fundamentally shaped what she wants for her son's future. That's why never let him feel alone isn't just a nice sentiment from his mother, it's a battle cry. She wants a woman who understands that Felix, despite being surrounded by millions of fans, despite being loved by 7 brothers who would lay down their lives for him, despite having one of the most infectious personalities in entertainment, Felix carries a very specific fear of abandonment that was forged in those early days in Korea. It lives quietly beneath his laughter, beneath his sunshine energy, beneath every "stay, I love you" he shouts into a concert microphone. And his mother wants a partner who senses that. Someone who never makes Felix wonder if she's going to leave. Someone who is consistent in a world that has been anything but consistent for him. Someone who, when Felix has a bad day and the old insecurities creep in, am I good enough? Do I belong here? Will they send me away again? Holds him and says, without hesitation, I'm not going anywhere. You're home. But his mother's criteria goes even deeper, and this is the part that connects to Felix's cultural duality in a way that fans found absolutely profound. She reportedly also wants someone who can bridge Felix's 2 worlds, someone who understands and respects both his Korean heritage and his Australian upbringing. And this is not a small ask. Felix lives in a constant state of cultural navigation. In Korea, he's expected to behave a certain way, respectful, hierarchical, mindful of age dynamics and social norms. In his heart, he's also Australian, casual, direct, emotionally open in a way that Korean culture sometimes discourages in men. His mother has watched her son toggle between these 2 identities his entire life, and she wants a wife who doesn't force him to choose. Someone who can sit with his Korean family during holidays and navigate the customs with respect, but who can also sit on a beach in Sydney with his Australian friends and feel completely at home. Someone who makes Felix feel like he doesn't have to be half of anything, that he can be fully Korean and fully Australian and fully himself, all at the same time, without apology. And then there's the criteria that made every stay who's ever watched Felix bake absolutely melt. His mother wants someone who appreciates Felix's nurturing side. And listen, Felix's love of baking, his skincare routines, his gentle way of taking care of the members, his habit of remembering everyone's preferences and quietly accommodating them, these aren't just cute personality quirks. They're expressions of how Felix loves. He nurtures. He feeds, he cares, he tends, he comforts. It's in his DNA, partly from his mother, partly from growing up with sisters, partly from being the member who had to earn his place in Stray Kids, and who now shows his gratitude by taking care of everyone around him. His mother wants a wife who doesn't just receive that nurturing but who mirrors it. Someone who bakes with Felix on lazy Sunday afternoons, who puts on face masks with him while watching movies, who matches his caring energy so that he's not always the giver. Because Felix gives and gives and gives to his members, to stays, to everyone, and his mother wants one person in his life who makes sure he receives just as much as he pours out. Number 5, and I know some of you are already crying. But please compose yourselves because number 4? Number 4 is where this list takes a sharp turn, because the next member's mother brought up something that is so personal, so raw, and so directly connected to the pressures of the idol industry that it sparked an entire conversation about mental health and the price of fame. You're going to want to hear every word. Number 4. Han. His mother's words cut so deep, it sparked a conversation the whole industry needed to hear. Han Jae-sung. The name alone carries a weight that most people in this industry will never fully comprehend. Because when you talk about Han, when you really talk about him, not the surface level, oh he's the fast rapper, or he's the squirrel-looking one, you're talking about one of the most complexly gifted, deeply layered, and quietly tormented artists of his generation. And I don't use the word tormented lightly. This isn't drama for drama's sake. This is a young man who stood on some of the biggest stages in the world and delivered performances that left audiences breathless, and then walked off stage into a battle that no amount of talent, fame, or screaming fans could fight for him. Han Jae-sung has been publicly, courageously, almost defiantly open about his struggles with anxiety and panic disorder. And in an industry that historically treats mental health like a dirty secret to be hidden behind perfect smiles and flawless choreography, his honesty didn't just break barriers. It demolished them. So when his mother's criteria for his ideal wife surfaced, it wasn't just another entry on a list. It was a window into the private world of a family that has watched their son fight a war that most people can't even see, and her words, every single one of them, carried the kind of weight that makes you stop scrolling, put your phone down, and just sit with what you've heard. But before we get into what she said, you need the full picture. Han Jae-sung was born in Incheon, South Korea, but spent a significant part of his childhood in Malaysia. That international experience, being uprooted from his home country and planted in a completely different cultural environment at a young age, shaped him in ways that echo through every aspect of his personality. Living in Malaysia exposed him to different languages, different people, different ways of thinking, and it gave him a worldview that is broader and more nuanced than what most Korean kids his age develop. But it also created a sense of displacement, a feeling of never quite being fully rooted in one place. When he returned to Korea and eventually entered the JYP trainee system, he carried that displacement with him, and it merged with the natural pressures of idol training to create a psychological environment that was, to put it mildly, incredibly demanding. His mother watched all of this unfold. She watched her son leave for Malaysia. She watched him come back changed. She watched him enter an industry that chews up and spits out young people with ruthless efficiency, and she held her breath every single day hoping that the boy she raised, the sensitive, brilliant, impossibly creative boy, would survive it intact. And then the anxiety hit. Not the casual, I'm a little nervous before a test anxiety. The real kind. The kind where your chest tightens and you can't breathe and the room starts spinning and your own mind becomes a prison you can't escape. Han has described his panic attacks with a level of detail and honesty that is almost painful to listen to, the feeling of his heart racing so fast he thought it would explode, the inability to stand on stage because his legs wouldn't stop shaking, the moments where he genuinely didn't know if he could continue being an idol. There was a period where he had to step away from some Stray Kids activities to focus on his mental health, and during that time, the person who was there, always there, without judgment, without pressure, without a single moment of just push through it, was his mother. She didn't tell him to toughen up. She didn't tell him to be grateful for his success. She didn't minimize his pain by comparing it to other people's struggles. She simply held space for her son to feel what he was feeling, and she made it clear that his mental health was more important than any comeback, any award, any chart position, anything. So when his mother spoke about what she wants in Jae-sung's future wife, the first and most powerful criteria she expressed was this: she wants someone who understands mental health. Not someone who accepts it, understands it. There is a monumental difference. Accepting mental health means saying, I know you have anxiety, and that's okay. Understanding mental health means knowing what it looks like when a panic attack is building before it fully arrives. It means recognizing the micro signs, the slight change in breathing pattern, the way his hands start fidgeting differently, the way his eyes lose focus for just a fraction of a second, and knowing exactly how to respond. Not with panic, not with overwhelming concern that makes the person feel like a burden, but with calm, grounded, almost practiced steadiness. His mother wants a woman who can be Jae-sung's anchor during a storm, not someone who panics alongside him, but someone who becomes more stable as the waves get higher. Someone who can hold his hand and breathe with him, slowly, in and out, without saying a word, because she's taken the time to learn that words during a panic attack can make things worse. And that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be a physical presence that says, I'm here, you're safe, this will pass. And this is where it gets deeply personal and heartbreakingly beautiful. His mother reportedly elaborated that she doesn't want Jae-sung's mental health to be the defining aspect of his relationship. She doesn't want a wife who sees Jae-sung primarily as someone who needs to be taken care of, because that dynamic, no matter how well-intentioned, can become suffocating. Jae-sung is not his anxiety. His anxiety is one part of a person who is also hilariously funny, devastatingly talented, incredibly thoughtful, surprisingly philosophical, and capable of writing lyrics that make millions of people feel seen. His mother wants a partner who engages with all of Jisung, who can have a water gun fight with him on a random Tuesday afternoon, who can debate whether pineapple belongs on pizza with the intensity of a Supreme Court argument, who can stay up until 3 a.m. listening to the beat he just produced and give genuine feedback, who can match his chaotic energy during the good times and be his quiet harbor during the bad times. She wants a woman for whom Jisung's anxiety is simply one thread in a tapestry that is rich, colorful, and overwhelmingly beautiful, not the whole fabric. But there's another layer to his mother's criteria that fans found unexpectedly touching, and it has to do with Jisung's relationship with food. Now, if you're a stay, you just smiled, because Han Jisung's love of food is legendary. This man doesn't just eat, he experiences food. Every meal is an event. Every snack is a celebration. Every new dish is an adventure. He moans, he narrates, he closes his eyes in ecstasy. He describes flavors with the poetic precision of a Michelin-starred food critic. It's comedic and endearing and honestly one of the most purely joyful things in all of Stray Kids content. But beneath the comedy, there's something deeper happening. For Jisung, food is comfort. Food is safety. Food is the opposite of anxiety. When the world feels overwhelming and his mind won't stop racing, food is something tangible, something he can taste and smell and hold. It grounds him in the physical world when his mental world is spinning out of control. His mother knows this. She's the one who figured it out first. And so part of her criteria, and this one made fans absolutely cry, is that she wants someone who will eat with Jisung. Not just cook for him, not just feed him, someone who will sit across from him and share a meal with genuine JY. Someone who gets excited about trying a new restaurant, who fights him for the last dumpling, who sends him food photos when they're apart, who understands that when Jisung says, "Let's eat together," what he's really saying is, "Let me feel safe with you." And then there's the criteria that hit the hardest, the one that had fans pausing, rereading, and then sitting in silence for a very long time. Jisung's mother said she wants someone who will never make her son feel like he is too much. And the weight of those 3 words, too much, in the context of Jisung's life is absolutely crushing. Because Jisung is a lot. He's loud, he's energetic, he's emotional, he's unpredictable. He swings between hyperactive chaos and deep introspective silence sometimes within the same hour. He talks fast, he moves fast, he feels fast, he loves fast. He's the type of person who will text you 17 messages in a row and then not text for 3 days. He'll cling to you like a koala one moment and need complete solitude the next. He is, by any conventional measure, a lot to handle. And he knows it. That awareness, the fear that his personality, his emotions, his very essence is exhausting to the people around him, is something that feeds directly into his anxiety. The thought, "Am I too much? Am I annoying? Are people tired of me?" runs on a loop in his head, and his mother has watched him wrestle with that fear since childhood. So when she says she wants someone who never makes him feel like he's too much, she's not asking for tolerance. She's asking for celebration. She wants a woman who doesn't just put up with Jisung's intensity, but who revels in it. Someone who responds to those 17 consecutive texts with 18 of her own. Someone who matches his energy when he's high and sits in the stillness when he's low. Someone who looks at all of Jisung, the chaos, the genius, the anxiety, the laughter, the tears, the everything, and says, with absolute conviction, "You are not too much. You are exactly enough. You have always been exactly enough." Number 3. Lino. His mother's criteria divided the fandom, and the truth behind it is absolutely mind-blowing. Lino. Lee Miho. The man who turned being unreadable into an art form. The member who can stare directly into a camera with absolutely zero expression and somehow make 2 million people question their entire existence. The dancer whose body moves like it was engineered by a higher power, whose stage presence is so magnetic that even when he's standing completely still, you cannot look away. Lee Know is, by every possible metric, an enigma, and that's not fans being dramatic, that's the literal members of Stray Kids saying it. Bang Chan, who has known him for nearly a decade, has openly admitted that there are days when he still can't tell what's going on inside Miho's head. Han Ji-sung, who is arguably Miho's closest member in the group, has said that understanding Lee Know is like trying to read a book where every chapter is written in a different language. He is simultaneously the most savage and the most tender member of the group, the one who will roast you until your soul leaves your body and then quietly make sure you've eaten dinner. He is a paradox walking on two legs, and his mother, the woman who created this magnificent contradiction, knows exactly how confusing her son is. Which is why her criteria for his ideal wife didn't just surprise fans, it divided them. Because what she said forces you to confront a truth about Lee Know that most people aren't ready to accept, and once you hear it, you will never look at him the same way again. Let's build this from the ground up, because Lee Know's family background is essential to understanding why his mother's words carry the weight of 1,000 unspoken conversations. Lee Miho was born in Gimpo, South Korea, and from a young age, he exhibited two qualities that seemed to exist in constant tension with each other: fierce independence and profound sensitivity. He was the kid who wanted to do everything himself, tie his own shoes, make his own decisions, solve his own problems, but who would also cry quietly in his room over things that most kids his age wouldn't even notice. A dead bird on the sidewalk. A classmate eating lunch alone. A scene in a movie where someone was misunderstood. His mother watched this duality develop in real time, and she understood something about her son that would take the rest of the world years to figure out. Lee Miho feels everything. He just refuses to show it in the way people expect him to. His emotional world is not smaller than other people's. It is, if anything, larger. But he processes and expresses those emotions through a filter that most people can't decode. Where other people cry, Miho cooks you a meal. Where other people say, "I love you," Miho silently puts a blanket over your shoulders when you fall asleep on the couch. Where other people hug you when you're sad, Miho makes a savage joke to make you laugh because he believes that laughter is better medicine than tears. His love language is action masked as indifference, care disguised as chaos, devotion hidden behind sarcasm. And if you don't know how to read that language, you will think Lee Know doesn't care. And you would be devastatingly, catastrophically wrong. So here's what his mother said, and this is the criteria that broke the fandom in half. Lee Know's mother reportedly stated that she wants someone who is independent. Strongly, fiercely, almost stubbornly independent. A woman who has her own life, her own passions, her own world, and who does not need Miho to complete her. And when this came to light, the fandom split. One side immediately understood and celebrated it. The other side was confused, even hurt, because it seemed to contradict the romantic ideal that most fans project onto their favorite idols. Doesn't she want someone who needs him? They asked. Doesn't she want someone who makes him the center of her universe? And the answer, the raw, honest, uncomfortable answer, is no. And the reason why is one of the most psychologically insightful things any idol's mother has ever expressed. Here's what Miho's mother understands that most people don't. Her son cannot breathe in a relationship where someone depends on him emotionally for everything. It's not that he doesn't want to be needed, it's that excessive emotional dependence triggers something in Miho that is deeply connected to his own psychological makeup. Miho is a person who needs space the way other people need oxygen. Not because he doesn't love, he loves with an intensity that would shock people if they could see it, but because his way of loving requires room to exist. He needs to be able to disappear into his own world for hours, to dance alone in a practice room at midnight, to lie on the floor with his 3 cats and stare at the ceiling thinking about nothing, to cook an elaborate meal for no reason other than the meditative act of chopping vegetables, and he needs a partner who doesn't interpret that space as rejection. His mother has watched relationships and friendships in Miho's life struggle because of this dynamic. People get close to him, they experience his warmth, which is there, powerfully, even if it's unconventionally expressed, and then they want more. They want constant reassurance, constant communication, constant emotional availability. And Miho, not because he's cold, but because he's wired differently, retreats. And the more he retreats, the more they chase. And the more they chase, the more he retreats. It's a cycle that has played out over and over, and his mother wants it to end with the woman he marries. That's why she wants someone independent. She wants a woman who gets it. A woman who, when Miho goes quiet for a few hours, doesn't spiral into, "Is he mad at me?" but instead uses that time to pursue her own passions. A woman who has her own friendships, her own hobbies, her own inner world that is rich and fulfilling enough that Miho's presence enhances it but doesn't define it. Because here's the beautiful irony that his mother understands perfectly. The more independent the woman, the more Miho will want to be around her. When he doesn't feel the pressure of being someone's emotional lifeline, he relaxes. The walls come down. The sarcasm softens. The real Miho, the one who writes sweet notes and leaves them in random places, the one who memorizes your coffee order after hearing it once, the one who will drive 30 minutes at midnight to bring you medicine when you're sick, but will text you, "Don't die." It's inconvenient, while doing it, that Miho comes out. His mother has seen this version of her son, and she knows that it only emerges when he feels free. Not free from love, free within love. But the independence criteria was only the beginning, and the next thing she said is what truly sent shockwaves through the fandom. Miho's mother said she wants someone who loves animals, specifically, someone who loves cats. And before you roll your eyes and say, "Obviously, he has 3 cats," please understand that this goes so far beyond pet preference that it enters the territory of fundamental compatibility. Lino's relationship with his cats, Suni, Dunji, and Dori, is not a cute hobby. It is a core part of his identity. Those cats are his emotional anchors, his stress relief, his daily source of joy, and in many ways, his most honest relationships. Miho is a different person around his cats. The masks come off, the guard drops. The person you see cuddling Dunji with a soft smile on his face is the real Lee Miho, unfiltered and unprotected. His mother knows that any woman who enters Miho's life is also entering a household with 3 cats, and she needs to not just tolerate them, she needs to love them. Because if Miho ever senses, even for a second, that his partner resents his cats or views them as competition for his attention, that relationship is over. Not maybe, not eventually, immediately. His cats were there first. They love him without conditions, and they will always be a non-negotiable part of his life. His mother isn't testing for pet tolerance. She's testing for the ability to love what her son loves, fully and without jealousy. And then comes the criteria that is perhaps the most revealing of all, and it connects directly to the paradox that defines Lee Miho's entire existence. His mother wants someone who can read between the lines. Someone who doesn't need Miho to say, "I love you," in words to know he loves her. Someone who recognizes love in the way he adjusts her scarf without being asked, in the way he sends her a photo of a random cat on the street because it reminded him of her, in the way he makes her favorite dish on a day she never told him was hard, but he somehow knew. Miho communicates love in code, and his mother wants a wife who has cracked that code, not because Miho taught her, but because she's naturally attuned to the frequency he operates on. This is not something you can learn from a book or a relationship advice column. It's a fundamental compatibility of emotional operating systems, and either you have it or you don't. His mother has spent Miho's entire life being the only person who could consistently decode his emotional signals, and she wants to pass that responsibility, that honor, to a woman who can do it just as naturally. Number 2. Hyunjin. His mother's words read like a prayer, and the story behind them will leave you speechless. Hwang Hyunjin. Just the name itself carries a kind of gravity that is almost impossible to articulate without sounding like you're exaggerating. Except with Hyunjin, you genuinely cannot exaggerate. Because the reality of who this person is somehow always exceeds whatever words you try to use to describe him. He is, by near universal consensus, one of the most breathtakingly beautiful human beings to ever step onto a K-pop stage, and I'm not talking about conventional idol handsomeness. The kind that's manufactured through styling and angles and carefully curated lighting. I'm talking about the kind of beauty that makes people stop. The kind that makes a room go quiet when he walks in. The kind that has prompted actual professional photographers, people who have shot supermodels and movie stars for decades, to say that Hyunjin's face is something they've never encountered before, a combination of features so striking, so balanced, so otherworldly that it transcends cultural beauty standards entirely. But here's the thing about Hwang Hyunjin, and this is what separates him from every other visual in the industry. His beauty is the least interesting thing about him. And his mother knows that better than anyone alive. Because beneath that face, beneath the sharp jawline and the feline eyes and the lips that look like they were sculpted by an artist who refused to stop until every curve was perfect, there is a person of such profound emotional depth, such intense sensitivity, and such raw artistic power that reducing him to his looks is almost an act of violence. Hyunjin is an artist. Not as a branding strategy, not as a concept for a comeback, not as a cute hobby he mentions in interviews. He is a genuine, legitimate, deeply committed artist. He paints. He draws. He creates visual art that has been exhibited and praised by people in the actual art world. His work is emotional, abstract, layered with meaning that he often refuses to explain because he believes art should speak for itself. When Hyunjin picks up a brush, he's not performing. He's processing. Every painting is a conversation he's having with his own emotions, the ones he can't express in words, the ones that are too complex for lyrics, the ones that live in the spaces between what he shows the world and what he feels inside. His mother raised an artist before she raised an idol, and that distinction, that understanding that Hyunjin's art is not secondary to his career, but is, in fact, the very essence of who he is, defines every single word of her criteria for his future wife. So let's talk about what she said, and I need you to approach this with the understanding that these aren't just preferences, they're the accumulated wisdom of a mother who has spent over 25 years watching her son navigate a world that constantly, relentlessly tries to reduce him to something simpler than what he actually is. Hyunjin's mother reportedly expressed, before anything else, that she wants someone who sees her son's soul before his face. And the devastating power of that statement only becomes clear when you understand what Hyunjin has been through. From the moment he entered the public eye, Hyunjin's appearance has been both his greatest asset and his heaviest burden. People see his face and they make assumptions. They assume he's confident. He's not, at least not in the way people think. They assume everything comes easy to him. It doesn't. He works with an almost punishing intensity. They assume he's superficial because beautiful people must be superficial, right? They assume his art is a hobby, his emotions are performance, his sensitivity is an act. His entire life, people have looked at him without looking into him, and his mother has watched that pattern cause her son a pain that he rarely talks about, but that she can see in his eyes every time someone reduces him to a pretty face. She wants a wife who walks into a room with Hyunjin and sees the person, not the visual. Someone who, when Hyunjin shows her a painting he's been working on for weeks, doesn't say, "That's nice, babe," and change the subject. Someone who sits with it, who asks what he was feeling when he chose that color, who notices the texture of the brushstrokes and wonders why they're aggressive in the upper left corner, but gentle in the center. Someone who understands that when Hyunjin paints, he's showing you the inside of his heart, and the correct response is not admiration but reverence. His mother wants a woman who falls in love with Hyunjin's mind first, his heart second, and his face last, because those are the parts of him that will still be there in 40 years when the face the world worships has aged and changed. And the man sitting across from his wife is no longer the idol on the magazine cover, but a person who still needs to be seen. But the criteria deepens, and this is where fans started realizing that Hyunjin's mother wasn't just talking about preferences, she was talking about protection. She reportedly said she wants someone who is emotionally brave. Not tough, not thick-skinned, not someone who doesn't cry brave. The kind of bravery that allows you to look at raw, unfiltered human emotion without flinching. And this connects directly to the single most important thing you need to understand about Hwang Hyunjin. He feels on a level that most people simply cannot fathom. When Hyunjin is happy, the room lights up. When he's excited, his energy is contagious in a way that defies physics. But when he's hurt, when he's sad, when the weight of the world presses down on him, The depth of his pain is oceanic. He doesn't experience sadness, he is consumed by it. He cries with his entire body, not just his eyes. He carries emotional wounds for years, turning them over and over in his mind, reliving them, trying to understand them, trying to alchemize them into art that might give the pain some kind of meaning. His mother has been the person who holds him through those storms, and she knows that his future wife needs to be someone who can do the same, someone who isn't afraid of the intensity of his emotions. Because a lot of people say they want a sensitive man until they're confronted with what genuine male sensitivity actually looks like at full volume, and then they retreat. They say, you're overreacting. They say, it's not that deep. They say, can we just move on? And every single one of those phrases, to someone like Hyunjin, is a knife. His mother wants a wife who never, ever reaches for that knife. And now here's the criteria that fans have called the most poetic thing they've ever read from an idol's mother, and it's the one that makes you understand why this entry is number 2 on our list. Hyunjin's mother said she wants someone who can be his muse. Not just his partner, not just his lover, not just his companion, his muse. The person who inspires him. And if you understand anything about the creative process, you know that a muse is not someone who poses for paintings. A muse is someone whose very existence sparks creation. It's the way she laughs that makes him hear a melody. It's the color of her scarf on an autumn afternoon that makes him reach for a paintbrush. It's the way she falls asleep on the couch with a book on her chest that makes him think, I need to capture this moment before it disappears. His mother wants a woman who doesn't just support Hyunjin's art from the sidelines, but who lives inside it, who becomes so woven into his creative world that the line between his love and his art dissolves completely. Because that is how Hyunjin loves. He doesn't separate romance from creation. For him, being in love is art, and his mother wants a partner who exists in that same frequency, someone who walks through a museum with him not out of obligation, but out of shared wonder. Someone who reads poetry aloud on rainy evenings not because it's aesthetic, but because she genuinely feels the words. Someone who creates her own beauty in whatever form that takes and brings it into the shared space of their relationship like an offering. There's a layer to this that connects to Hyunjin's journey through difficulty in a way that is both painful and deeply redemptive. Hyunjin has faced public controversy, intense scrutiny, periods where the world seemed to turn against him, where his name became associated with negativity instead of the beauty he represents. During those dark times, his mother watched her son struggle with something that no parent should ever have to witness, the slow, grinding erosion of a young person's belief in their own worth. Hyunjin questioned everything during those periods. His talent, his purpose, his right to exist in the space he'd worked so hard to earn. And his mother, standing in the gap between her son and a world that was being cruel to him, developed a criteria born not from preference, but from need. She wants someone who will fight for Hyunjin. Not physically, emotionally. Someone who, when the world says he's not enough, holds his face in her hands and says, the world is wrong. Someone who doesn't waver when public opinion shifts, who doesn't calculate the cost of standing by him, who doesn't keep one foot out the door, just in case. His mother wants a woman whose loyalty is not conditional on circumstances, but is rooted in a conviction so deep that no external force can shake it. She wants someone who chooses Hyunjin not when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Number 1. Bang Chan. His mother's criteria sits at the top because it carries the weight of a decade of sacrifice, and every word will wreck you. This is it. The summit. The peak. The one entry on this entire list that, when you hear it, will make every other entry, as powerful as they were, feel like they were all building toward this moment. Because this isn't just number 1 on a countdown. This is the story of a mother who watched her eldest son leave home as a child and spend nearly a decade in a foreign country fighting, failing, doubting, crying, almost quitting, and somehow, against odds that would have broken almost anyone else on this planet, emerging as the leader of one of the greatest groups in modern music history. This is the story of Bang Chan Christopher Bang, the boy from Sydney who walked into JYP Entertainment at 13 years old and didn't debut until he was 20. 7 years. Do you understand what 7 years means in trainee terms? 7 years of watching other trainees debut while you're still practicing. 7 years of evaluations where someone in a suit decides whether your dream lives or dies. 7 years of calling your mother from a tiny dorm room in a country that wasn't yours, trying to sound okay when you were anything but okay. 7 years of birthdays spent in practice rooms, Christmases spent away from your family, moments of adolescence, first experiences, milestones, memories that other kids take for granted. Sacrificed on the altar of a dream that gave you nothing in return for the better part of a decade. And through all of that, every single day, every single night, every single moment of doubt, there was one woman on the other side of the world, in Sydney, Australia, who held her breath and prayed. That woman is Bang Chan's mother, and her criteria for her son's ideal wife is not just the most powerful entry on this list. It is, without exaggeration, one of the most emotionally devastating things I have ever had the privilege of putting into words. Let's start at the beginning, because you need to feel the full weight of the story to understand why her words land the way they do. Christopher Bang was born in Sydney to Korean parents. He grew up in a loving, supportive family with his younger brother Lucas and younger sister Hannah. From a young age, he showed extraordinary musical ability. He could sing, he could dance, he could pick up instruments with almost supernatural ease, and he had a charisma that made people pay attention to him even when he wasn't trying. His parents recognized his talent, but more importantly, they recognized his passion. This wasn't a kid who wanted to be famous. This was a kid who needed to make music the way other kids needed to breathe. So when the opportunity came to audition for JYP Entertainment, one of the biggest entertainment companies in South Korea, his parents faced a decision that would haunt and define their family for years to come. Do they let their 13-year-old son move to Korea? Alone? To pursue a dream in an industry known for chewing up and destroying young people? Do they say yes to the possibility of greatness at the risk of losing their child to a system they can't control, in a country they can't easily reach, in a culture that operates by rules they don't fully understand? They said yes. And Bang Chan's mother has carried the weight of that yes every single day since. The trainee years were brutal. Not the sanitized, retrospective, it was tough, but I learned a lot version that idols give in interviews, brutal in the way that leaves permanent marks on a person's psyche. Chan trained alongside people who debuted in groups like GOT7, Day6, and Twice, and every time one of them graduated from trainee to idol, he was left behind. Every single time. He watched friends debut while he remained in the practice room. He watched younger trainees surpass him. He endured evaluations where his future hung in the balance, where producers and executives weighed his worth like merchandise and sometimes found it lacking. There were moments, and Chan has admitted this with a rawness that makes you want to reach through the screen and hold him, where he seriously considered quitting. Packing his bags, going back to Sydney, telling his mother, "I'm sorry, I couldn't do it," and trying to live a normal life. But he didn't. And the reason he didn't? The reason he dragged himself out of bed every morning for 7 years, the reason he practiced until his body screamed for mercy, the reason he wrote song after song after song in the desperate hope that someone would see what he was capable of, it wasn't just his dream. It was the weight of his mother's sacrifice. He couldn't go home and face the woman who let her firstborn child leave at 13 and tell her it was all for nothing. He owed her a debut. He owed her proof that her impossible, terrifying, faith-driven decision to let him go was the right one. And when Stray Kids finally debuted in 2018, and Chan stood on that stage for the first time as the leader of his own group, the person he thought of wasn't himself. It was her. That is the mother whose criteria we're discussing. A woman who sacrificed proximity to her firstborn son for nearly a decade. A woman who learned to be a mother through phone calls and video chats and messages sent across time zones. A woman who missed school events and birthdays and moments she can never get back because she believed in her son's dream enough to endure the unbearable pain of letting him chase it without her. And when she finally spoke about what she wants for Chan's future wife, every word came wrapped in a decade of longing, fear, love, and sacrifice that most people will never comprehend. So there it is. All 8. From number 8 to number 1. 8 mothers. 8 sons. 8 completely different visions of love, and yet, when you lay them all side by side, something extraordinary emerges. A pattern. A truth that transcends individual preferences and speaks to something universal about what it means to love someone deeply, unconditionally, and without reservation. I.N's mother asked for kindness, the quiet, consistent, unpretentious kind that makes a home feel warm without anyone noticing why. Seungmin's mother asked for intellectual depth and emotional stability, a partner who engages his mind and calms his relentless self-criticism. Changbin's mother asked for softness, a safe harbor where her powerful son can finally be gentle. Felix's mother asked to never let her son feel alone, a plea born from watching him cross oceans and almost lose everything. Han's mother asked for understanding, someone who doesn't just accept his battles, but walks through them beside him. Lino's mother asked for independence, the freedom to love without chains, the trust to be apart without falling apart. Hyunjin's mother asked for someone who sees his soul, past the face, past the fame, into the artist and human being beneath. And Bang Chan's mother asked for someone who stays, the simplest, most devastating request of all. 8 different criteria. 1 shared message. Every single mother on this list asked for the same thing in different words. Please love my son for who he really is, not who the world thinks he is. That's not a K-pop story. That's a human story. That's every mother who has ever watched her child step into a world that will judge them, reduce them, misunderstand them, and sometimes break them, and whispered a prayer that somewhere out there, there is one person who will see what she sees. Not the idol. Not the performer. Not the image on a screen. But the boy who cries at night. The boy who tries too hard. The boy who loves too much. The boy who is terrified of not being enough. The boy who is, and has always been, just a child looking for someone to call home. To the mothers of stray kids, your words didn't just reveal criteria. They revealed the hearts you raised. And those hearts? They are extraordinary. And to everyone who watched this all the way through, if this hit you, if this made you feel something, if this reminded you of your own mother and the things she probably wishes for you that she's never said out loud, then this video did what it was supposed to do. It didn't just entertain. It connected. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying. And we'll see you on the next one.